The Super Six danced their hearts out tonight on The Masked Dancer, and one was sent packing. So next week we will have just 5. Let's talk The Masked Dancer. Hey everybody, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It and our Masked Dancer wrap up for the week. The Super Six, yes indeed. I wasn't sure going into this if 1 or 2 dancers would be sent packing, but no, it was just 1, which means next week we will have the final 5. So many returning dancers, but somebody had to go home, so we're going to talk about that and more on my guest video here. Before we get to that though, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button below and the little bell next to it so you can get my notifications whenever I release a new video, whether it's Masked Dancer or any of my other TV or movie videos. I'd love to have you aboard as a subscriber. And most importantly, I think for my masked videos is the comments. I love hearing from you guys and who you think might be under the mask. So let's talk about tonight's show. We had the Super Six, and as far as clues, we didn't have too many by way of new clues. We got a little bit of a clue package, usually had like 1, maybe 2 hints in there, but then at the end was a super clue, and then instead of the word up clue, which is where they took the voice modulator off and the person said 1 or 2 words in their real voice that also, you know, the words themselves might give us a clue to who they could be. Instead of doing that, they did rapid fire instead, which gave us 15 seconds to hear the judges ask various questions of each of the dancers. Our guest panelist tonight, the very funny Whitney Cummings, and she actually had some interesting guesses. I'm not sure if any of them are what I'm thinking, but they were certainly outside the box a little bit, and I could see where she was going with some of them. I just happened to not necessarily agree with them, but at least we were getting some interesting guesses, I think, from her that weren't like super crazy. But let's start with the Hammerhead, because that's who got sent home. Even though he was the 4th one to dance, we're going to start here with him. And in his clue package, he said he may not be the best dancer, but he's the lovingest. And we saw him standing in the middle of a map, basically on the state line between New York and New Jersey. And then the super clue for him was a bottle of suntan oil. The song was Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood by Santa Esmeralda. I don't know the song, but it was a good one for him. He danced his little heart out about it. And then for the rapid fire questions, are you known for having a sense of humor? He said, I think so. Do you have stage fright? No. Are you strictly a solo act? Nope. And have you ever had a relationship in the public eye? And he said yes. The guesses from the panel then were Pauly D. Actually, many Jersey Shore guesses. Pauly D, Mike the Situation Sorrentino, and Vinny were all bandied about. Mike the Situation actually is what Paula said last week, but she went with Vinny this week, and Brian Austin Green took the Mike the Situation Sorrentino guess. All right, and then the final questions and guesses from the panelists. So Brian said, are you a fan of working out? He said yes for sure. Ashley asked, are you taller than Ken? He said yes. I mean, most people are. It's such a silly thing. Whitney said, have you ever done stand-up comedy? And he said a little. Ken said, have you ever been to New Jersey? He said yes. And Paula asked, are you a lover of social media? And he said yes. So when the guesses were finalized here, we had a couple sticking with Pauly D. Whitney and Ken were both thinking Pauly D. Brian Austin Green was sticking with Mike the Situation Sorrentino. Ashley thought Kevin Hart, who has not been talked about at all, but she has been thinking like along the comedy type lines. The first week she thought it was Zac Efron, her former High School Musical star. And then Paula guessed David Dobrik, who she had brought up in the original guesses tonight who I'm not familiar with at all, but she gave a couple of clues to who he is. He's a big social media star. Last week, though, because of the clues, and I'm not sure if I would have figured this out on my own, but when Paula guessed Mike Sorrentino, the situation last week, I got the wheels turning, and I thought, okay, this could definitely be a Jersey Shore guy. And my guess was Vinny. And then tonight, when we had the map of New York and New Jersey on that state line, I was like, okay, well, that's Jersey Shore. And then the super clue, the suntan oil, I was like, okay, 1,000% this is Jersey Shore. But who is it? Couldn't quite piece any of the clues together really more so than anybody else. But the thing I kept coming back to was the eye chart because it was really highlighting the E. And I just kept thinking Vinny. So sure enough, last week I actually had it right. It is indeed Vinny Guadagnino, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Vinny from Jersey Shore. Yes, indeed, it was him. And they revealed a few things that I hadn't even thought of. We've talked the last couple of weeks about some of these clues and what they could mean. But the eye chart actually wasn't so much about the E itself, but it was a nod to his clothing brand, which is called I Have a Vision. So doctor's eye chart, I have a vision. Okay, and then all the Vegas clues that were coming up the first week. Well, apparently he goes there sometimes and hosts Chippendales nights with the male strippers, which makes a lot of sense. That's kind of in his brand, that sort of stuff. And Paula asked about the wedding cake last week. I had been thinking it was his bromance with Mike the Situation, but it's a little more specific than that. Apparently, there was an episode of Jersey Shore, which, by the way, I've never seen 1 second of. But there was an episode of Jersey Shore where he did actually get bro married to Pauly D. So okay, I didn't know that quite far into it, but I definitely called the Vinny last week, so I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, so as we move through tonight's people, a lot of them are going to be people that I've been saying. However, some of them are people I've just been saying on the chat because you guys have turned me around on a few of these for sure. So first up was the Cotton Candy, and here she said she's no stranger to competition, but this has been different for her. Her super clue was 5 gold balloons. She danced to Great Balls of Fire from Jerry Lee Lewis. And we also saw in the clue package a locker room that said practice with some golden rings. They weren't quite the Olympic rings because they weren't colored, but they were gold. And of course that leads us to think Olympic anyway. And then for the rapid fire questions, does ice play a role in your life? Yes. Do you have lots of tights at your house? Yes. Can you do what you're known for in heels? Paul asked. That was a good question. No. Do people know you for being fit? Yes. So the guesses tonight, a lot in the Olympic area. We had Tara Lipinski again, Kristi Yamaguchi again. These were mentioned last week as well. Simone Biles was tossed around. And Ken, of course, having to just be wrong every time, thinks it's J-Lo. I mean, come on. That's just silly. But I thought Tara Lipinski last week, and I am again going to stick with my Tara Lipinski guess. Now, the only thing that leads me a little bit astray from Tara Lipinski is we know that there's 4 Olympic gold medals in people this season, and I believe Tara has 4 all on her own, which throws off one of my other guesses that we're going to get to. So just sort of keep that in mind. So maybe it's a different ice skater. Maybe it is Kristi Yamaguchi. I don't know. But the lipstick clue from last time really makes me think Tara Lipinski because they're doing a lot of name-specific clues. So I'm thinking it's Tara. All right, so let's see. Who was next this week? They went all around. Oh, we had the exotic bird was second. Yes, okay. So she said she's been made fun of before for her dancing. There was a brick wall with some graffiti on it, and then there was a little Bernie Sanders with his mittens from the memes as part of it, which that, as an aside, I thought was very odd because they filmed this show more than a week in advance, I think. So the Bernie meme didn't even exist, I don't think, when they made this episode. I'm not sure if the judges saw the same clue package that we saw, because they certainly didn't mention Bernie in their chatter. But I thought that was interesting. Anyway, she said life has changed since she's been a mama bird, and her super clue was a rose tattoo. The song she did was Rush by Lewis Capaldi. She danced to that. And then for her rapid fire questions, have you ever been in a music video? Yes. Have you ever appeared in a campaign ad? That could, I guess, relate to Bernie. She said yes. Does the word model mean anything to you? Yes. Has it been hard being away from your baby? And she said yes. All right. So a couple of the guesses from the panel were involving tattoo artists or people who are known for their tattoos. Kat Von D and Dita Von Teese were both bandied about. Ashley Graham was mentioned, who, I'll be honest, I don't even know who that is. And then Kate Upton, Ken mentioned, but that was proven to be false because Whitney Cummings actually has Kate Upton's phone number, so she straight up just called her right then and there in front of the exotic bird, and Kate actually did pick up. So even though that was a silly guess anyway, we know it's for sure not her. All right, so I've been back and forth a little bit on who this could be. I first thought it might be Venus Williams, but the last time the exotic bird was on, I had changed my tune and gone to Jordin Sparks, which I think somebody on the panel did mention last week. Not this week, but last week. And so when we're thinking about, okay, what do these new clues mean in relation to Jordin Sparks? Because we've already got the clues from the first 2 weeks. We've already talked about them. I don't need to go over them again. Although the number 17 in that first clue package is, to me, like, she was 17 when she won American Idol. That's a big one. But in terms of this week, well, I don't know what the Bernie meme has to do with anything. But life has changed since I've been a mama bird. She does have one child that she had in 2018. So still very, very young baby. And then for the rose tattoo, I think it's less about the rose and more about the tattoo. Because now Jordin Sparks does have tattoos. I don't know if any of them are roses, but more importantly, I think, is the name of her top 10 song, Tattoo. It was one of her first hits, even before No Air with Chris Brown. So I think still this is Jordin Sparks. We know there's some Grammy nominations among our contestants. Of course, Brian McKnight and Ice-T have already been kicked off, so that eats up a lot of Grammy nominations as well. But Jordin Sparks does have a Grammy nomination, so I think the exotic bird could still be her. I'm still on that train for sure. Okay, so let's see. Who was next? I have this in order of the original time they sang, so I got to look around a little bit here. Okay. Oh, so up next was the sloth. This one I am the most lost on. He said he may not be new to the dance floor, but stepping out of his comfort zone here. And then we saw a picture that said dad, mom, and child, and his super clue was 18 on a mobile of stars, like a mobile that you'd hang above a baby's crib. The song he danced to is Ain't That a Kick in the Head, that classic. And then for the rapid fire questions, what other animal would you be if you weren't a sloth? He said elephant. Is the costume making you feel more at ease? He said no. And has it been hard being away from your family? And he said yes. Kind of a dumb clue. What are you going to say? No, it stinks. Or no, it's great. I love being without my family. But I think maybe that could lead us to believe that he is not from L.A. and his family is not in L.A. So maybe that is a little bit of something. So the guesses tonight, again, really all over the place, but they're really thinking comedians. And they've been on that trail. They said Will Ferrell earlier. They said Keegan-Michael Key last time. So this time, Ken was thinking it was his Hangover co-star Bradley Cooper, especially with the Mobile of Stars. He was like, oh yeah, a star is born. John C. Reilly was talked about, sort of biting off the Will Ferrell guess from last time. And then Sacha Baron Cohen was mentioned as well, which Paula reminded us that she was actually in the Bruno movie. She was kind of duped by Sacha Baron Cohen, so she's not a huge fan. But, it doesn't mean it's not him. And then Yankee Street, we saw on the marquee, or not on the marquee, it was like a street sign during the dance number, and they thought maybe that was a clue to something. So the only thing I thought of for that was, okay, maybe it's a Yankee with the number 18. The only one I could find that I've heard of that's still alive is Johnny Damon, but I don't think it's him. So here's what I think, and this is total shout out to Tyler Martinez that comments on my Masked Dancer videos, because I have never heard of this person until Tyler mentioned him. But I think a lot of these clues are starting to match up, and I didn't look too much into this person, but when I saw when he said I may not be new to the dance floor, and then when I saw the Mobile of Stars at the end, I thought to myself, well, this has got to be a Dancing with the Stars person. They're an old pro on the dance floor and the stars in the Mobile. And so I was like, I feel like Tyler said something last week, and I didn't know who it was then. So I went back to Tyler's comment, and he thought it might be Maxim Chermovsky. I don't know who this person is, so I apologize if that is way off. I don't watch Dancing with the Stars, but this person is from Dancing with the Stars. And the reason I am thinking it's him at this point is because we've seen a bunch of 18s along the way, right? Last time we saw one of those movie, clacker things that said 18 on it, right? Well, the super clue, 18 on the Mobile of Stars, he won season 18 of Dancing with the Stars with his partner. So I think this is Maxim Cherkovsky, no clue, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. And that even goes back to some of the early clues as well. Like the first week there was a lot of Glee clues, but one of the things was 8 o'clock was on a clock, and I was like, oh, well, that's the time Glee was on Fox. It's also what time Dancing with the Stars is on. So I'm convinced this is Maxim. So thank you, Tyler Martinez, for that guess, because I certainly would not have gotten there myself. I've never heard of that person. So next was the Hammerhead, so we went over him already. After that was the Tulip. And here she says she's never really enjoyed competing. And we see judges holding up signs that says not good enough. There was a Masked Dancer gram, kind of like an Instagram nod on her phone. And then the super clue was second annual mother-daughter dance. Song she did was Thank You Next from Ariana Grande. And for the rapid fire questions, these were really weird questions, I thought. Where would you retire? She said she hasn't thought about it, so that gave us nothing. How are you at memorizing dialogue? And she said she likes to think she's a pro. What would be worse, if you ran out of gas or if your phone ran out of battery? And she said, oh, the phone. All right, well, look, we've already seen TikTok clues. We've seen Instagram clues. That's just a silly question. That's an easy answer. So the guesses from the panel. Sarah Hyland is where Ken's head was at. Now, I thought Sarah Hyland was one of the singers in season 3, I think, of The Masked Singer. And he made a couple of nods to, why this could be her. I could maybe see it, but I don't think so. Simone Biles is who Brian Austin Green is sticking with for that. It's interesting that two different people are thought of maybe as Simone Biles. And then Julianne Hough came from Whitney Cummings. I think Julianne Hough was more of an identifier for what, the cotton candy? Is that who we were guessing Julianne Hough for that first week? Yeah. But it's not her. It's interesting that, these panelists, specifically Ashley Tisdale, really, but a little bit Paula too, is so in line with the TikTok culture and all of these online and viral stars, but they have not yet mentioned either of the Ziegler siblings. And now last week I was on the Maddie Ziegler train because I had heard more of her. I knew more about her because of the Sia videos, I guess, and I just heard the name more. But you guys on the comments really turned me around to the other sister. I think this is Mackenzie Ziegler. And I'm not sure if anything thing really got us to Mackenzie over Maddie this week, but certainly the mother-daughter dance, because they both came from Dan's moms. So that, is the mother-daughter connection. I'm surprised nobody on the panel came up with that. But all the stuff last week was about more how, like, she was living in her best friend's shadow kind of thing. And best friend, I think, is the sister. But that means Maddie, is more famous than Mackenzie, which I would agree with. I've heard of her, and I didn't really know much about Mackenzie. Primarily, I guess, because of the sea of videos. I think she's more well-known. But maybe for Dance Mom stars, she's more well-known as well. I don't follow that show, so I don't know. But either way, her word was princess last week, and I didn't know when I did the video last week about this, but apparently Mackenzie does voice some kind of princess in a movie or something. And there was something else, too. Oh, there was mac and cheese in, I think, the first week of clues, and they've been doing these name clues, so mac and cheese, Mackenzie. So I think this is Mackenzie Ziegler, for sure. So I'm glad you didn't get voted off this week, because I didn't want to go down as having, the last thing I said be that it's Maddie, but now I definitely think it's Mackenzie. So finally we had the zebra. He said he got 2 left feet, but now I'm in the Super 6. He said he's a bit claustrophobic. We saw an E on a graham cracker, which the panel picked up immediately, a Grammy. And then the super clue was KO. Somebody came up in a white t-shirt that just said KO on it. And then the song was, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it Mi Gente? By J Balvin. And the rapid fire questions. Have you ever acted before? He said yes. Are you undefeated? Said Paula, and he said, well, I'm still here. So that was kind of cute. Are you known for a hook? And he said yes. And Ken said, could I have heard any of your music? And he said yes, you could have. And so the guesses from the panel. Here was, I think, the most interesting guess from Whitney. I don't think it's right, but I think it was her best guess for somebody that's not seen any of the other clue packages. She thought it might be LL Cool J, because obviously he's hosted the Grammys a lot of times, but also the KO, Knockout, I'm Gonna Knock You Out, one of his famous songs. So I don't think it's him, but I like that she was thinking a little outside the box with that. And then we had a couple of heavyweight champion guesses. Oscar De La Hoya from, I think, Brian Austin Green, and then Paula sticking with Floyd Mayweather. She's been on that for a couple weeks now. A couple people that were talked about last time, also Tito Ortiz. I think he might still be in the mix a little bit. Nobody brought him up this week. But look, since the first week, I was thinking Oscar De La Hoya. And the reason was mainly because, yeah, some of the clues were leading me to a boxer. But that was the week after Ice-T got voted off. And I was like, okay, look, these clues I think are getting a little obvious with the names. So let me look for names in these clues. There was the OS on the car that drove by, Oscar. We talked about that last week. And also the dancing hot dog could be an Oscar Mayer Wiener. Sure. Okay. But the Grammy clue this week, Oscar De La Hoya has been nominated for a Grammy for Best Latin Pop Album or something in the year 2000. So that's up there. But then also just, are you known for a hook? Yeah, so obviously that's another boxing reference. Could I have heard any of your music? Yeah, you could have, So how many boxers sing? I don't know too many. The only problem I have with Oscar De La Hoya is that it throws off some of my other things that I know. Because we know, like I said, there are 4 Olympic gold medals. Well, Tara has 4 on her own. And I think Oscar has 1 or maybe more for boxing in the Olympics too. So that's sort of throwing me a little bit. And then also the Grammy clue. I didn't hear this, but one of you in the comments had mentioned there's, X number of Grammy nominations going through here. And we already have Brian McKnight, Ice-T, and possibly Jordan Sparks. So I don't know. But I've been saying Oscar De La Hoya since the beginning. I'm going to stick with that guess for now. So, all right, that is the Super 6. I think we've talked long enough here about the Masked Dancer. Next week we are down to 5. Please let me know in the comments where your head is at. Are you a fan of my guesses? Are they stupid in your mind? Let me know. Other than that, we will see you next week for another new Masked Dancer episode. Check out my other videos, too, in the meantime. A lot of movie and TV stuff if you're interested. I would love to have you watch some of those. And subscribe, please, if you haven't yet. And that's it. We'll see you next time. Bye.